Hey y'all, welcome to another edition of the BTSI show. I'm your host Christopher J. Today's a very special episode. We're going to do the challenge. Now, some of y'all remember from a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the podcasters that I listen to or radio show hosts. They say things and I just flat out disagree with it because they're just flat out wrong. And instead of tweeting at them, DMing them, or sending them emails, we know they're not going to see it or respond to it. Why not just do this? Do a video and let me reach out to the followers. That's what the importance of the challenge is, and that's the point of today's episode. Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, we need Charlamagne God to come in front of the congregation. We need to have a word with them. Now, before we get to that, you guys know what to do. Subscribe to my YouTube page. Follow me on all my social media accounts. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube page. Once we get to 1,000, I will give one person $100, just one. And so you guys know that I'm a man of my words, let me give out $50 when we get to 500 subscribers. Hear me when I say this. I'm not giving out money for the long haul. I'm going to stop when we reach a certain number. And y'all like my hat? Y'all can get one if y'all want it. FNX. If you're looking to lose weight, gain weight in the most healthiest ways, or you just need some workout gear or some accessories like these, FNX is the place for you to go. The links are located in my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook bio. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description. Fill up your shopping carts. When you get to checkout, use the promo code BTSI for 50% off. Again, BTSI for 50% off. All right, now, before we baptize Charlamagne in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, let's get to some quick hits. So, with that being stated, I want to quickly talk about Kirk Franklin and the situation. I know this is all, but I just want to touch on this and keep it moving. His son, 33-year-old son, pushed Kirk's wrong buttons, made him act the way that we typically don't expect Kirk to act. But I'm saying a child will push your buttons to that point to where you act all types of crazy. I know my son is too. Kirk Franklin basically on that video called his son a bitch ass N-word. I don't know this brother's name, but Kirk Franklin's son, guess what? Your dad's right. You fit that description to a T. You provoked him, recorded the conversation, and posted it online. You's a whole ass fuck boy, in my opinion. Next up, Joss Whedon, he's done. Who is Joss Whedon? Joss Whedon is the director of the 2017 Justice League movie that came out. You expect Joss Whedon to pick up where Zack left off and ride that thing to the finish line because of his resume he worked on. Most of the Marvel movies, whether he directed, written, or produced it. Problem is that did not translate to DC. Matter of fact, it was not compatible with DC. You just can't sneeze on certain things and be like, voila, masterpiece. Nope, that's not how this works, especially on a Zack Snyder project. So the way I see it is this: Joss Whedon will never work, and I'm just gauging hyperbole, so bear with me. Joss Whedon will never work on a blockbuster movie again. Comic book movies, period. And matter of fact, he was on a project just recently, and he left that after the first season. I think Joss Whedon is done. Some of y'all need to go check on that man's house. I'm serious. Now, why are we getting rid of 2017 Justice League? Because Zack Snyder brought his own version of Justice League out on this past Thursday. And I gotta say, that was a great movie. A 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I would not go no lower than 9 if I could keep it a buck. But that was a perfect movie. The perfect cinematic experience. I wish we could have watched that in the movie theaters, but we'll get into details in regards to that momentarily. Now, a lot of people was upset about the runtime, it being 4 hours, 2 minutes, 8 seconds, and I don't want to hear that. I really don't want to hear that. Matter of fact, if someone's complaining about the runtime, call them pussy. Tell them I said it. Because if you watch the movie on the timelines, there's markers that will tell you what chapter you're in. There are 6 parts plus a bonus chapter, and then the credits. If you're really pressed for time, some of you guys are not that busy because you're on your phone all the time, just watch one chapter and go do something else. And once you're done, you can revisit the movie and click on the marker where you left off. It's real simple. Here's part 1, here's part 2, part 3, part 4. It's very simple, super simple, that a caveman can do it. Another thing that in regards to the movie was Martian Manhunter, but let's not get into that because that was one of my highlights of the movie, because that's going to be in the challenge, which we are going to start right now. So usually I'm talking to my screen, but with this, it's best if I just read it off my trusty iPad. It's a lot because I did according to this, I did like 1,300 words. So it's not gonna last that long, but let's see what we can do. You guys ready? All right. For Tuesday, March 23rd, Dunk of the Day goes to Leonard Larry McKelvey, aka Charlamagne the God. Now, this Dunk of the Day is long overdue because when it comes to Charlamagne's infinity for anything Marvel Comics, it leads him to have zero objectivity when it comes to other superheroes in the comic book realms. Now, this past Thursday, Zack Snyder was able to release his version of Justice League. Here's a quick backstory on why the movie differs from that atrocity that was released in 2017. Snyder leaving the project was due to a death in his family. Speaking of which, we want to send our condolences to the Snyder family and a rest in peace to Autumn Snyder, his daughter. The original plan was for this version of Justice League to be a 2-part movie to be released in 2016 or 2017. Part 1 would have had an accurate backstory on Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, and Victor Stone, aka Cyborg. Also, not to mention that it would have been in a digestible format, so you will be ready to watch part 2 of Zack Snyder's Justice League. But glory to God, that's why erasers are essential, because now we can delete that 2017 piece of crap of a film and replace it with the integrity of Zack Snyder's brainchild. Now that you guys have that little tidbit, let's get back to Charlamagne. At every single corner, Charlamagne will go out his way to bash anything DC comic related. I always scratch my head and wonder, why would he do such a thing? Because I started listening to Charlamagne regularly when the now first ballot Radio Hall of Fame morning show, The Breakfast Club, was syndicated in Houston. That eventually led me to listen to his podcast, The Brilliant Idiots, with his co-host, Andrew Schultz. That means for the past 7 to 8 years, Charlamagne has been part of my life in some way, shape, or form. That's not a bad thing, because when someone, or in this case him, says something intriguingly positive or negative, if I made that word up, you know I do. Sorry about that. I'm always going to remember that quote. After all, it sticks out just like Charlamagne's headline when he doesn't go to the barbershop. I wouldn't miss those appointments if I was you, my brother. Charlamagne made it clear that his plans for the past weekend included watching Zack Snyder's Justice League. He stated 2 times that he is not a fan of DC Comics. And of course, in the back of my head, I asked myself, why do you have to qualify yourself by making that statement? Right there lets me know that he lacks objectivity and he is going to this weekend watching a movie with his mind made up. Of course, Charlamagne will deny these allegations. But he shot himself in the foot by stating he lacks fandom for DC Comics. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That is ideally within his rights not to be a fan of DC Comics. The issue at hand is coming to the point where he goes out his way to bash a solidified comic book brand that is DC Comics. That kind of reminds me back in the day when he went out his way to hate on Aubrey Graham, aka Drake. Something tells me that he needs to increase his time with the therapist every Friday at 3 o'clock p.m., as he so eloquently stated. Yesterday morning, Monday, March 22nd, Charlamagne opened up the Breakfast Club by stating that he watched Zack Snyder's Justice League twice and said, well, here's the audio.
I watched Justice League, the Snyder Cut, twice this weekend just to make sure it was as whack as I thought it was the first time I watched it.
That alone warrants Donkey of the Day. But he didn't stop there. During this segment of Get It Off Your Chest, a caller called in, and this is what happened.
Hello, get it off your chest.
Yeah, this is Shannon from Indianapolis.
What's up, bro? Get it off your chest.
I had to talk about Charlamagne, man. Why'd you disrespect the Snyder Cut? That was so much better than the original.
That don't mean it was good.
It was definitely so much better and definitely good.
Man, the last...
He had more background story.
Listen.
He had the Flash's background story, Cyborg's background story.
That was cool, but
much better.
that was cool. The last hour was good, but let me tell you something. The Martian Manhunter scenes was so whack. That was so pointless. You mean to tell me that you...
Cool.
Man, listen, you say it's cool, but where was he during the fight? Where was he during the fight? You just gonna show up and tell Lois Lane what she need to do, and then show up at the end and tell Batman, I want to join the Justice League. You missed the fight.
I
Did
agree
Superman
about that
come
part,
too?
but
Was Superman there?
But I mean, it was cool to see Superman in the black suit, Darkseid in there. Come on, it set up a
Superman
whole
wore a black suit?
I like the last hour was decent.
All right, guys.
Other than that, it was just too long and it was just too messy. I'm just not a fan of DC.
Have a good one, sir.
As Charlamagne's overworked and underpaid therapist always says, let's unpack this. Let's start with John Johns, aka Martian Manhunter. It came as a surprise that Martian Manhunter will make a cameo in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Before the movie was released, we were under the impression that the Martian Manhunter will come in as a post-credit cameo. But to our surprise, he came in during Part 4's Change Machine. One of Martian Manhunter's abilities is to shapeshift into any living being. When he visited Lois Lane, he is in disguise as Martha Kent, Superman's adopted earthly mother. Once their encounter concluded, Martian Manhunter shifted into his original form before he went into Calvin Swanwick, a former military official and now a senator played by actor Harry Lennox. Now, in case you guys don't remember who Harry Lennox is, go watch The Matrix Reloaded. That was Jada Pinkett Smith's love interest before she switched teams and got with Morpheus. And now that I think about it, that was tasteless. Jada, my bad. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. Not on purpose. That was my fault. That just came out wrong. Sorry to the Pinkett Smith family. Moving on. That means John has been on Earth for a long extended period. But how long will be detailed in future sequels. Martian Manhunter appears again during the epilogue, Father Twice Over. He reveals to Bruce Wayne that as long as the anti-life equation is on Earth, Darkseid will return. Not to mention that John also has a stake on this planet, which Zack Snyder will also be exploring in the future movies. The sad part about this is Marvel Comics is guilty of doing the same thing that Charlamagne accuses DC Comics of doing. He never brings that up. I wonder why. If I were Charlamagne, I would shut the F up forever regarding anything DC Comics related. I say that because he exposes his faithful, threatened feelings by the dominance that is DC Comics. How did I come to this conclusion? That's easy. Competitors typically talk down on other competitors to gain some form of competitive advantage. Say that 3 times over real fast. Well, here is the problem with that. When I got hired with the staffing agency a long time ago, the key thing they taught me was to never bash the competition because there is no competition. Let me say that again for the Charlamagnes of the world who is getting up there in age and got to squint their eyes just so they can hear better. Never bash the competition because there is no competition. Now, Charlamagne's probably saying that's bullshit. Well, case in point, the Joe Budden podcast has taken many shots at Charlamagne-related items or accomplishments, whether it be his 51% stake in the Black Effect Network or the Brilliant Idiots. Matter of fact, recently, Maul, one of Joe Budden's podcast co-hosts, took an unwarranted and unnecessary shot at the Breakfast Club. Now, before Charlamagne and his team say they didn't hear anything in regards to what Maul has noted, be advised that I don't believe you. None of y'all. Not only did you and your team listen to it, but you also elected not to respond to it because although Joe has a successful podcast and a growing podcast network, they're not on the same level as the Breakfast Club. We all know this. Which means there is no competition. So Charlamagne, why don't you transfer that form of energy when it comes to Marvel versus DC Comics in your mind? That way, you won't come off as a hater, you won't come off as a character of yourself, and you won't come off as ugly like that Wolverine tattoo that is on your arm. And please find that tattoo artist and get your money back if you haven't already. So with that being said, please give Charlamagne the God the biggest hee-haw. Matter of fact, his take on Zack Snyder's Justice League was so outlandish, it doesn't hold water. Let Remy Ma give Charlamagne the God the biggest hee-haw.
Hee-haw, you stupid motherfucker, are you dumb?
Now, some of y'all gonna think I'm a very hurtful person. That's very far from the truth. Just want to throw that out there. Although I meant what I said and I said what I mean, I'm still gonna wake up every morning to listen to the Breakfast Club. I'm still gonna wait till the end of the week for him and Shows to release their podcast. And once he releases his book, if he's working on it now, I am going to buy a copy and I'm going to be one of the first people in line to get him to sign it on a meet and greet, because I went to his first two meet and greets. First one took too damn long. Second one, I was able to get there early enough so I could sign it and get out. So, to show you guys I'm a nice guy, please give Charlamagne God the sweet sounds of the hammer tones.
You are the donkey of the day. You are the donkey of the day. Yee-haw.
Actually, one last thing before we go. I wanted to touch on this briefly. Deshaun Watson, he has these allegations of sexual assault coming out against him ever since he made it clear that he doesn't want to be part of the Houston Texans. And at this point, I don't blame him. I'm on the fence of not being a Texans fan. This is me talking. I almost don't want to be a Texans fan based off how they move. Seems like the spirit of Bob McNair still haunting that place. But I'm going to say this, because the narrative that people are trying to push out there is believe all women, believe all victims. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't. I have seen it with my own eyes. Alleged victims and women lie, fabricate stories to tarnish other people's good names just so they can get ahead. So I don't subscribe to that believe all women bullshit or that believe all victims bullshit. That's not me. Never have been me. It will never be me. But I will say this. Listen to all women. Listen to all victims. But only believe the facts. If you stick to that policy, you will never go wrong. I'm not saying that all these women are liars. Although this timing seems interesting enough, I'm not going to say they're a liar. I'm just going to listen to them, but only believe the evidence that they bring forth. That way, you're always going to be on the right side of history. So, I'm going to pray for Deshaun Watson. I'm going to pray for the victims, but I'm not believing anybody until proof or evidence or facts are presented. That's the only thing I'm going to believe. Until then, I'll just listen to both sides and keep it like that. Yeah, believe all women, believe all victims, that's bullshit. You heard it here first. Again, my name is Christopher J. I will talk to you guys next week. Peace out.